Hey everybody, Billy Watkins here, and welcome to another episode of The Whole Package by Premier Packaging. In connection with Premier's 30th anniversary this year as a company, we have a very special guest today. It couldn't get more special.
Thank you.
John Gaynor, Premier's president and one of its founders. John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Your
First of all, I got to ask you, once I got demoted, is that how I got on the show?
I have nothing to do with our bookings. I've been asking for you to be on.
How many years you've done this?
A couple, 2, 3, something like that. 3 years, yeah.
Seems like 10 to me.
Yeah, me too. It's unending. But we're glad to have you. Finally.
No, thanks for having me. And grew up here in Louisville, right? Born and raised. The traditional, Catholic grade school, St. X. Went down to Eastern Kentucky a couple years and played a little golf for them. And then came back and finished up at Louisville. And so that's kind of my way around the city, right?
I didn't know that. So you played a little golf in college.
Yeah.
So that explains a lot to me, I think.
So
it was either packaging or golf, right?
When I was in college, started looking for some type of internship to get some sales experience, right? My father really was drilling that in my head. He was a national sales manager for all the air conditioners that went in all the hotels.
Yeah.
The little zone line used to turn on and kept your room
Yes.
cool. He did that worldwide, and he's like, you need to get sales experience, and then you'll have a leg up. And I really wanted to be like sell for a Titleist or, be in the golf business.
Yeah.
But coming out of college, it wasn't easy getting a job. That was in the late 80s. And so I knew someone that it was actually our competitor, Bob Hannekamp at Packaging Unlimited.
A name I've heard of, yeah.
And they owned a dye company called Mike Alexander Dyes.
Yep.
And Mike was just starting out. It was just Mike, his brother, his wife. His kids were just, infants. And he needed a sales rep, and he only needed them part-time. So I would work in the afternoons and go to 4 or 5 different of the corrugators here in town and try to sell them the cutting dyes, and kind of got me a start of getting the door slammed in my face. There's people that welcome me in, and other people like, yeah, we don't buy dyes from somebody just starting out. So it's pretty unique
Humbling experience.
Very much for 18-year-old, 19-year-old. Well, no, it's what, 2021 probably.
But you had the drive then.
Had the drive then, showed up every day, kept getting the door slammed in my face. I'd, expand out. I'd go up to Southern Indiana a little bit, or, learn how to prospect, learn how to do pretty much it all. A person moved from here. It was at St. Joe, would go over to Chesapeake, or go over to, there was a lot of different box companies then,
Right.
Now they've consolidated, but you learn that process of getting in the door when they got in, things like that.
So how do we go from there to Premier and starting?
Yeah.
Premier?
So came out of college and realized that my last name wasn't Alexander, so I'd probably never owned part of Mike Alexander Dyes, and so I got my first job at St. Joe Container.
Yeah.
And I, not because my name rhymed, John Gaynor was St. Joe Container, but I thought I would have an opportunity to expand. They were a medium-sized company.
Right.
They weren't too large. A guy by the name of George Fager ran it locally. They were my biggest client when I was with Mike Alexander Dyes, and went into sales there. But it was a little rough starting out because, they had local sales reps. So they gave me a panel station wagon, yellow panel station
Nice.
wagon, and with a wood paneling on the side, and said, go get them, big boy, but you can't start selling unless you're 50 miles outside of Louisville.
Oh, wow.
So I could start selling Carrollton, Owensboro, Northern Kentucky. And you talk about a kid that got his brains beat out. It was pretty tough. And I'll never forget my first sale. I I went into, which we still have the account today. It's called Wadsworth Then. Then they sold college books. And I called on this lady, Sheila Rodig, and, gave her my speech, who we were, a full box plant, corrugator, paper mill. She said, well, I got 3 suppliers. I'm happy. And I said, well, tell me something that you don't like about, your current supplier. And she's like, well, it takes them forever to set up new items and get us the boxes. In fact, I've got 3 new boxes I need next week, and they're telling me it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks. I said, well, give them to me. I'll have them next week. She's like, we ain't priced them. I said, well, you price them. I said, just put the price on them you think it should be from the others you buy, and I'll have them here next week. She's like, I think you're
full of it.
Full of it. I said, no, I'm not. I'll get it done. So I drove 120 miles an hour back to Louisville. Yeah. I got my first order. And they said, perfect, wonderful. Who is it? We got to get a credit application. No, don't worry, they'll pay. No, you got to get all these little details. So, well, I need them next Monday. And this was like Wednesday.
Okay.
They're like, we'll get it done. So we got all the credit, they were, fine. Right. And got the orders there on Monday, and we still have the account today at Premier. Just grew and grew and grew. So,
But it's the book reps we do. I know the name. I'm not going to say the name. But
they do. We do book reps. We do some RSCs. Yeah. But it's a lot bigger. Used to be a lot bigger than it is now. I mean, everybody got their books at the college bookstore.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's online or
everybody's got a laptop.
And now it's all online too. But anyway, that's kind of was the first sales, the first go of it.
I think I remember that account because it was we would load the trucks perfectly for 60 pallets per trailer, right?
Yeah.
We maxed that thing out. I like it. First big account, going from because our original building was St. Joe's and then became Premier at some point. When did the corrugator leave that building?
Well, so what happened was St. Joe owned 6% of the total land in Florida. And they said, Florida's growing like crazy. I mean, think about the amount of land that is.
Yeah.
So they went and sold their box plants and their paper mill off, and then they used that money to develop beachfront property and all their property in Florida. So they went and sold to a company called 4M, which was the Four Meal Brothers. And that's kind of why I left. They just seemed, every time they came in, they told you a little something different about how you would make your money and et cetera, et cetera. Ending up, fast forwarding, it went to Box USA. Then International Paper bought it. And International Paper thought the plant was too old, the corrugator was too old, and they shut the plant down. And I had a relationship from our business relationships, Premier, with a guy named Mike Sulky, and he let us buy the plant. So we couldn't keep the corrugator, we couldn't keep maybe some of the small equipment, but not, the major flexos. They moved those. And they had a nice 66, went to Lexington, but we could get the building. And it's just perfectly set up, for the flow of packaging. And we got to keep some of the conveyor and things like that. So that was in, I should know, but I think the late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. Early 2000s.
And from there, pretty much just a rocket ship, right? Since what do you attribute that success to?
I think that, I know for a fact that when we took on Amazon in '99, the banks and were very, very concerned about the internet making it and giving them a line of credit, the amount of credit Amazon wanted. And I didn't have any money. This was kind of their problem, right? So,
geez, so much for banks.
Right. They're a little stuffy at times. But that was the big deal. So the International Papers, all these, their volume wasn't, at that time, it was getting big enough, but it wasn't big enough. So there was a risk factor there that we took the risk on. So that's how we kind of catapulted across the country as Amazon grew. And, one Christmas, I think we had 100 truckloads a week. We were supplying between Coffeyville, Kansas, Campbellsville, Kentucky, and Baltimore, Maryland. And so then, as they got bigger, the integrateds got involved,
right.
and then we got involved in other things too, making right. the poly bags and prep bags and all the different things they use. But I think the catapult was for us the internet, because if you look at our customer base, it's internet based. Whether it's a company, UPS is a big customer of ours, and they, their logistics side, they got a lot of healthcare, they got a lot of e-commerce. So, as the 3PL distribution, UPS's, FedEx, Kuhn and Nagels, all the different ones, we kind of targeted those,
right?
And really, because we knew the business, their forecasting wasn't great. We helped them plan better and showed them a lot of things that the industry was looking for.
So a lot of it's the right place at the right time, right?
No, I mean, that's, I would say a big part of life
in general,
right?
Right.
Right place at the right time, but definitely the right place at the right time, but taking a big risk. I think that some of the breakup of Premier was about the risk.
Yeah.
That I wanted the risk and other people's didn't, and so it all worked out, but it could have not. So,
right.
what I mean? But it was a big risk at the time, but it worked out, and the banks ended up being wrong. But, still it's crazy, that you read that the e-commerce is still only like 30% of total retail sales. So some people still like to go try it on in the dressing room,
right,
or, want to feel the peach that they're buying or the
right.
apple that they're buying. So it's just a different mindset by each person. But I think demographically, as the younger people get older, it's going to become bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Speaking of taking risks, I mean, we're doing this interview in our corporate distribution center right now, and headquarters here in Louisville. Once on land the EPA called a Brownfield site. It was abandoned or underutilized due to pollution from industrial use. In this case, from an aluminum plant. So when you decided to expand Premier, why did you choose to take on this site?
Well, one, the close proximity, the size of the land, was 17 acres. So that's in this area.
Something you can't get in the middle of the city, right?
Yeah. Right. And, on the highway, you can go south, you can go north. I mean, you can get a lot of places out of this area. And I mean, that's why it's so popular. So that was number one. It was old Reynolds Metal building. And, it was considered a hazardous material way after, it was a cleaning solution.
Okay.
That they would pump into a container, and it leaked and got in the ground. So a close friend, Charlie Marsh, and at that time, Jill was very involved in the properties. We thought about redoing the Reynolds buildings. And Charlie found a company out of Denver that had cleaned up this type of material before, and they injected stuff in the wells, and it just brought it down slowly till it wasn't there anymore. And so kudos to him and knowing the right people.
Right.
And he is a mastermind of development in Louisville, in my opinion, and a great friend. And then Jill was like, why are you going to redo these old buildings? Let's look at knocking down and putting in a new building. And then we had relationships with Summit Construction,
Yep.
Jeff Robinson for a long time. And so we, if you know the right people and you trust the right people, you can get a lot of stuff done. And I think that's how it happened. We had two people we trusted that gave us really good advice and knew how to work it through the government, knew how to get through all the processes.
Right.
for some you really didn't know and you really didn't trust, and they could come back and say, well, it's millions of more dollars, but we knew these guys were right and they were on it. And then so it ended up and it worked out perfectly.
And another gamble that paid off.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you're taking risk, but calculated risk with people that kind of have your back, right? Yeah. So,
and it's a beautiful building.
Yeah,
it's a testament to
and
that
that's
hard work.
Jill Gaynor. I mean, I got to give her credit. She worked, hand in hand with them to give us what we wanted. And it is beautiful, guys.
I was talking to her the other day, and she said, a few days before everybody was going to get in here, and you were kind of questioning on her, like, what are you doing? And she was putting little felt pieces on the bottom of the furniture, to protect things, every little bit,
every little detail.
Yeah. We were talking earlier, and you were mentioning landing a new account, and there was a glint in your eye. So how do you keep that, after decades in the packaging business, you still live and breathe Premier? How do you keep up with that?
Well, I mean, I just turned 60, so I'm not ready to retire. And, my philosophy has always been like, I'm in it to win it. So like I get my golf in, I get my vacations in, but I still like the action. I still like going on sales calls. I still like growing Premier and making us more stable. And we're diversifying to have, less concentration on some of our bigger customers and, develop new customers equal to their size. So, I just love being involved in helping people learn the business. And, I love the manufacturing piece we have. I think it's our biggest asset compared to who we compete against. They don't have that. The Veritivs, the Shores, whatever, they don't have their own manufacturing, which we want to continue to grow. It's not cheap to set up a box plant, but it's worth it in the long run to, service our customers the way we want to.
We hope you've enjoyed our conversation with John Gaynor as much as we have, but the story doesn't end there. In 2 weeks, we will return with the second installment of our two-part interview with Premier Packaging's president and co-founder, where John shares the company's current vision and lays out how Premier Packaging plans to continue driving innovation in packaging solutions for the next 30 years. You won't want to miss it.
Do you have comments, questions, or ideas about this topic? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Please visit primpack.com/podcast to let us know what you think. Thanks.